This is a story about faith. About a little girl who loved one thing almost as much as she loved her daddy. And that was riding shotgun in Daddy's old Peterbilt. Well, everybody around town called her Daddy's little shadow. From the time she was old enough to climb the steps, she'd be setting up in that big old Peterbilt, grinning from ear to ear. She loved the rumble of that diesel, the chrome stacks singing in the wind. And her daddy would smile and say, "Honey, one of these days this old truck will be yours." They hauled cattle, lumber, machinery, but her favorite trip of all was just being beside her daddy. Then one rainy afternoon, they were hauling a load of steel, headed to Birmingham, Alabama. And without warning, her daddy grabbed his chest, his face drooped to one side, and his arm went limp. But somehow, by the grace of God, eased that Peterbilt onto the shoulder. The paramedics came, and she held his hand as they carried him away. Daddy's old Peterbilt sits behind the house, rust on the bumper, weeds all around. But a little girl's faith never once gave in. She kept on praying time and time again. She'd say, "Lord, I know you hear me still. Please heal my daddy and his old Peterbilt." 3 months in the hospital, the stroke left him paralyzed, unable to speak, unable to walk. The man who once crossed America couldn't even stand on his own. And that old Peterbilt, it never moved again. Year after year, the grass grew taller, the paint faded, the tires sank into the earth. But every evening, that little girl would sit in the driver's seat, lay her hand on the steering wheel and whisper, "Jesus, I know you ain't forgot my daddy." 4 years passed, then 5, then 6, and if she's honest, her faith was beginning to hurt. She was now a senior in high school. Graduation day, the gymnasium was packed. Her name was called, and as she walked across the stage, she heard an air horn. Everybody laughed. She kept walking, then it blew again, and again. This time, something about it, something she hadn't heard in years. She looked out the window and froze. Smoke was rolling from twin chrome stacks. The sun was shining off polished fenders and sitting behind the wheel, revving the engine, blowing that horn, was her daddy. She dropped her diploma, kicked off her shoes, and ran out the auditorium doors, across the parking lot. And just as she reached him, he climbed down from that Peterbilt, not limping, not stumbling, running toward his little girl. Daddy's old Peterbilt ain't sitting still today. The Lord heard every prayer she prayed. 6 long years she held on tight, believing God could make it right. Now the wheels are turning and her tears are gone. Daddy's old Peterbilt is rolling on. They wrapped their arms around each other, and neither one wanted to let go. It felt like forever. Then her daddy leaned back and looked into her tear-filled eyes, and with a voice she hadn't heard in 6 years, he said, "Honey, your prayers brought me home." He smiled, pointed toward that shiny old truck and asked, "Are you ready to ride?" She laughed through her tears and said, "Daddy, I've been ready all my life." And Daddy's old Peterbilt rolled down the road once more.